This past weekend, I turned 27 years old. Becoming an old man. 27 years old, getting close to 30. Last year was the first birthday that I had with starting this podcast at Worker. And I made a podcast episode, 26 lessons from 26 years of life. So we're continuing that trend this year. 27 lessons, all new lessons for 27 years of life. And these are things that I've written down, I think, just thoughts that I've had over the past months, reflected a little bit more deeply these past few days. And we're just going to go through all 27 that I've written down here, add a little bit more commentary, and it'll be fun to reflect back on these. I looked at the 26 lessons from that past episode recently, and it seems like such a different list compared to what I've written now, which is very cool. So excited to get into all these. So 27 lessons, 27 years. Here's number one. Make moves. The last solo episode was a big part of this. I moved to Austin, Texas this past year in February. Massive move. You can move your physical location. That's what we usually think of when talking about making a move. But I don't see it as just that. You know, I have thought of my life now in terms of taking action, working as, just make moves. Just just facilitate things, create movement, create that boiling effect, create that bubbling effect. And it's not so much of necessarily that those things will eventually lead to things. More times than not, it might not. But if you're just constantly making moves, like small stuff, if you're constantly just trying to facilitate things, that is a good energy to have behind you. This entire podcast, I could sum it up as that. It's just like, yeah, I'm just trying to make moves. This entire podcast has been built off of emailing people, just emailing a ton of people. And the way that I see that, I was like, yeah, I'm just making a lot of small moves here. I'm just trying to make a lot of small moves. And the more you do that, the more comfortable you'll get with it, the more natural it will feel. And it can pay off. Like that mindset has paid off a ton, especially when it's come to this podcast, especially with connecting people and having that potentially create bigger moves. Number two, tap more into what you feel instead of what you think. You won't have the language for what you feel. Everything's about feel for me now. And I would say that the thoughts that I have, it's me asking myself the question, how does this make me feel? Tuning into my body physiologically, feeling sensations. Like this podcast, it doesn't make me think. This podcast makes me feel. And I felt that early on. I was like, there's a different type of energy behind this for me. Like this just feels right. This feels different. And I've been able to gain language and gain a better conscious understanding behind why that is, why this feels so good. But it won't ever get to the core or the root of it. It's always going to be like, I don't know, like it feels really good. And that's why I've said that this show is about, like, I'm just trying to make people feel something, because that's what it is for me. Like, all right, this makes me feel something, and I'm just trying to give that to other people. And that's what other people have told me, that the realization why I had that about the podcast of like, I'm just trying to make people feel something. It's because when I made an Instagram post about this, was because I had three guests pretty close to each other that, three guests had told me like, yeah, this just felt differently. Like one was like, I haven't done an interview in over a year, but this felt different. One said, I've actually been pushing off all interviews like until the fall, but I felt like I was just supposed to do this one now. Another one said like, yeah, like I've had to cancel a lot of things. Like my schedule's been chaotic, but I just felt like this, was never an option to move. And I'm like, man, it's all about feeling. It's not about thinking. And I think whether it's work, life decisions, whatever it is, you're not necessarily going to have the language for it, but you will feel it. You're like, yeah, I feel it. I feel like that's what I'm going to have to do. Number 3, faith is most important. All of us have faith. And if you don't think you do, you just don't realize it. Faith, honestly, it seems like month over month, but obviously for this past year, faith has become the most important thing in my life, whether that's from a spiritual perspective. Largely, that's the lens that I'm looking at it through, is like from a spiritual, faith-based perspective of looking at faith, but also just generally speaking, just having faith within life. And what I mean by that is because I think there are a lot of people who simply just see faith as religion, a higher power. For me, that truly is how I see faith. But faith is like we unconsciously have faith, like just being able to get through the day. Like you unconsciously just have faith that like, yeah, I'm going to be able to get through the day. Like being able to get through school or whatever it is. Like you have the faith, whether you know it or not, that yeah, I'm just going to be able to, walk this path and things will be okay, or like I'll just be able to proceed. Like that is what faith is. And so when you come into the conscious awareness of it, faith just becomes that much bigger and that much more special. And for me, it is the number one thing now. Um, I always grew up going to church. I would say growing up, it was kind of like this is what we do. This is just part of the routine. But I feel like I've entered a chapter in my life where, like I said, it's like, it's not just like, oh yeah, like I go to church or like this is part of the routine. Like, yes, it is. Like, I love that it's part of my routine, but I'm like, no, like this is the most important thing. Like, I truly feel like there is a divine spiritual component to myself and my life and the work that I do, and seeing myself as not necessarily being in control or the one calling the shots, so to speak, but more so just being like a conduit or a messenger. And that's where faith plays a massive role in that. And it's been a huge asset of mine. And I don't like saying that. Like, I don't like putting faith in terms of like, oh, this is an asset. This is something that I'm able to, use to my advantage. Like, yes, I am, but it feels like it's one of, if not the most important driving force behind me. Number 4, focus on being less bad. This is one of my favorite, because what that means is focus on being less bad. That's rephrased as just try to get better. But I think we see better as, oh, I'm not good enough to get better. Oh, I can't be great. Well, don't think of it that way then. Focus on being less bad. And that's the best thing for you, because if you're really bad at something, it's pretty easy to get less bad pretty quickly, or see just a few sort of baby steps of, all right, I'm getting less bad. And if you just stick within that mindset for whatever you do, like, hey, I'm just trying to be less bad, it allows you to, I think, play and act more freely, take more action, make more moves, tying it back to number one. And it gets us out of this mindset of, like I was saying, like, oh, like, who am I to get better at that? Or who am I to do that? Or, oh, I'm not going to be good at that. It's like, no. Okay, well, yeah, you're not going to be good, but let's just focus on being less bad. Like with me with this podcast, like I feel like I had a good baseline from the start. Like I wasn't like bad, but when I look back, I'm like, man, you've come a far way just in terms of comfort level, questions I ask, just being like in a good rhythm with everything. But all that came from was, all right, I'm just trying to be less bad. Number 5, stop trying to get there and start enjoying being here. There is a moving target you never reach. Here is always with you. Be present. I truly feel like one of my biggest strengths now, and this goes to a lesson that I think was probably from the 26 lessons from last year, is like, don't have goals, just focus on, systems. It's kind of a similar thing where I'm not focused on the future. Like, yes, I have a vision for what I think the future will unfold like and where I'm trying to go, but I'm not focused on, like I said, there. I'm focused on here because there is always going to be changing. You're never actually going to reach there. It's always going to be out of reach, but you can always be here. You can always enjoy the present moment. You can always enjoy the work that you're doing now. Number 6, I've seen the best growth when I wasn't focused on growing, but focused on being and doing. This really, I got the evidence for it from the gym, because when I was younger, just like when I was in my most absolute obsessed phase of being in the gym and being like really, really dedicated to the gym lifestyle of building muscle, like it was always like growth mode. I'm trying to build, I'm trying to grow, I'm trying to get better, I'm trying to get bigger. And then when I switched to, and it was just a natural switch, a natural evolution to, okay, I'm just trying to work out because I like to work out, stay fit, still staying within the same programming and same systems with everything, but just a different level of consciousness and awareness and a different type of mindset behind the work of just like, hey, I'm just doing this work to do the work while still trying to, progress. Like I said, still like same systems in place. And it's incredible. It's like I improved and grew like exponentially, it seemed like, or like so much faster when I didn't have that type of mindset. When it was just a focus on the being type of mindset of just like, hey, you know, just show up, do the work, and then that's all you can do. And I've brought that mindset throughout my entire life to everything else now, whether it's this podcast, other work, just anything of just, hey, don't focus on growing, focus on being. And I feel like it's just a much more refreshing, calming way of, and it's not necessarily doing different things. It's doing all the same things, but just with a different framing and a different energy behind it. And it's been a huge help for me. And I think you do have to, I think that's a evolution. Like you do need to have that type of, I think, growth mindset, or like you need to be able to feel like, hey, like I'm trying to grow, especially when you're younger, maybe like when you're in your teenage years or college years. But I feel like, well, speaking of growth, I feel like I grew out of that. I feel like I grew out of my, growth mindset into more of just a being and doing mindset. Number 7, feeling like you always need life figured out is the best way to stay stuck. If you're always in that mindset, especially from a external, societal, kind of like social perspective of like, your community and people around you feeling like, you always need to have life figured out, or like things are, you know, well ordered, or you have all your ducks, in a line. That is the best way to just seesaw through life and just live just a stuck life in general. Like, you will never feel like fully aligned if you always feel like whatever it is that you have going on like has to be like right. For me, you know, I've quit a job. I've moved halfway around, halfway across the country. I've just like stopped things that like didn't feel right anymore. And there've been, seasons of life, especially there was a, 3 or 4 month season of life this past year where the main thing was like, uh I don't know what I'm doing right now. like I there are a lot more questions, confusion, uh, you know, hypotheses right now than actual, understanding. But you need to allow yourself to go through those phases. Like, those are such key and important phases. And you're able to reflect back on them and be like, wow, like that was an important part. Like that, like I needed that moment. I needed to allow myself that feeling of being lost or stuck, because that is also freedom. I remember, I was talking with Anne-Laure Lecouffé, author of Tiny Experiments, talking with her. She's like, allowing yourself to be lost, that is freedom. If you do not allow yourself to, be lost, if you always feel like you need to have it figured out, but like deep down knowing that you don't, or like that you're not in the right place, like that is a crappy prison to be in, and it doesn't feel good. And you're the only one that knows that you're in that prison. So allow yourself to not have it figured out. Allow yourself that fluidity, because that is the only way that you can navigate yourself into a way that feels right. Building off of that, I think is a great one after that. Number 8 is a lot harder to make a bad decision than you think. And I'm talking about, obviously you can make a lot of stupid and bad decisions in your life, but I'm talking about from a, you know, life construction, personal development, work, whatever it is type framework when I'm talking about like making decisions. Like, we think the next, like the next decision we have to make is like our final decision. Like, this is the be all and end all decision. Like, it's like make or break, and I need to get this right. And it's just false. Have next step mentality. It's like, okay, this is the next decision that I have to make. And if it's a tough decision, like if you think like, oh, I don't like, I think it's more so on you if something turns out to be 100% bad. Like, if you're like, wow, that was 100% bad, like that was the wrong decision. I was like, well, I'm like, I think it's on you that you weren't able to garner any type of like good or benefit from that decision that you made. Like, there have been times in my life where, I made decisions where it's like, like, I don't think this is, a decision that's going to lead to some type of long-term path, or like continue down like like an evolution of this path. Like, oh, like I made this decision and now it's going to lead to further decisions down this path. you know I made that decision. I was like, okay, I need to redirect now. But I was like, well, a lot of good still came from that. And I think it's important to know, like I said, it was like, hey, this is just the next decision that you have to make. And I think that's a good frame. It's like, you know there's it's a lot harder to make a bad decision. Like like think about like, hey, dude, that was a bad decision that you made. Like it's a lot harder to do that than you think. Number 9, thinking you know what you want to get from your work is actually holding you back. You have a very fixed view and lens of what you're trying to execute on, of what you're trying to accomplish when you're working on something. I think that just totally puts you in a box of not seeing what can naturally come from work. And it also gets you into the mindset of just being very results oriented of like, okay, I'm doing X plus Y because I want Z to happen. Instead of just being like, all right, X plus Y equals question mark. I think that's much more productive. Especially like you need to enjoy the work. Like you need to enjoy the work. You need to love the work for you to be okay with that type of equation. But I see that as much more productive, much more fun instead of putting yourself into a fixed equation of, well, I'm only doing it because I want that to happen. And you completely just blind yourself from other potential things that can happen. And you're like, I'm just trying to push myself down this one lane. Number 10, if I always got the things I wanted, I'd be a completely different person. We don't know what's best. And I would even add to that, yes, completely different person, but I would probably also add, and obviously I don't know, but I would add just like not as good of a person. And I don't know exactly how I'm defining good here, just like not to the level of who I am as a person today. Like if all like, yep, I want that decision to happen, yep, go, have it go that way, have this one go that way. Yeah, like I'd be, I think, a lot less evolved, a lot less progressed than I am right now, because there are a lot of things that didn't go my way or that I wouldn't have asked for. And I would say that those are the most pivotal things, or those are the things that I look to the most. Where I'm like, oh wow, like I'm really glad that didn't go my way, because look at what happened here. And I think that's really reassuring, because going into the future, or like being in the present moment and living life, if something doesn't go your way, you're like, okay, I've had evidence in the past of things not going my way, and it seems like it turned out good. So I'm not going to complain, right? I don't know. Like I'm just going to allow myself the assurance or reassurance that like, okay, this wasn't supposed to go my way. Because even when I've learned is like, well, maybe I don't think in this present moment that it's not going my way, but I'll get to a point where, hey, wow, yeah, that actually did go my way in the long term. Number 11, no matter what it is, your work should feel like creation. Work is something you get done. Creation is something you bring to life. More times than not, you're the thing that's brought to life. And if you're hearing that and you're thinking to yourself, my work doesn't feel like that. My work doesn't feel like it's bringing me to life. I would say it's like, okay, then that's not the work for you then. Like there's something else out there. And I think you can be in two boats there. You can either not know what that thing is. Like I'm like, I don't really know what brings me to life. Like, I don't know what that work looks like. And it's like, okay, that's just like a lot of exploratory experiment type stuff, just like going into a phase of curiosity. But I think we all know to a degree what's something that will feel like is bringing us to life, the work that feels like creation. And There've been a lot of times within my life where the work didn't feel like that. The work felt like work, and I'm a guy who loves work. I'm a guy who feel like I know pretty quickly or not if something lights me up, if work feels like creation and it feels like it's bringing me to life. And no matter what it is, no matter what type of job, I think work always feels like creation. And what that creation is, it's not necessarily like what the result that you're creating or like the necessarily the craft, but like you feel it like on a internal individual level of like this work is bringing myself to life. Like I am the creation that is being created. Number 12, you do in the moment and develop by looking back. This is what I love the most, or not the most, but this is a big component of what I love about podcasting is I have so much data and documentation out there from March of I can't even know. I don't even remember if it's 2023 or 2024. I think March of 2024 I started. I have so much data and so much of myself out there that I can look back on and reflect back on and see that development. And I looked back and I watched, the first 5 seconds of my very first interview today. And I was like, oh my gosh. Just like different person. Like that is a completely different person. I don't even like know who that is. And like I'm looking at myself and I'm watching myself and I'm listening to myself like a completely different person. And obviously, if right now as I'm saying this, as I'm recording this feels like who I am. This is the doing phase. But 6 months down the line, a year down the line, next November when I'm doing 28 lessons for 28 years of life and I'm looking back on this video and what these lessons are, it's not going to feel like the doing. It's going to feel like, oh, look at that development. And so I think it's important to document for yourself in some type of way, whether it's through writing, through something visually, but just creating some type of timeline and data markers that you can look back on because your consciousness, who you are as a person, is going to be very different today than it was 6 months from now or 6 months ago or a year ago. And you'll just have that greater appreciation. Like day to day, it just feels like life. It just feels like I'm just going about my life. I'm just, doing life. You need to be able to have that documentation so that you can have that greater appreciation for the development of who you are as a person. Number 13, go with it. This I talked a little bit about earlier in trying to think which one. I'm looking at my notes here. I can't remember, but I was kind of like talking about this with an earlier one. There were moments within this past year where it was like, that kind of sucks. Yeah, like in that moment, like I don't know if I necessarily would have wanted that to happen. Like stings a little. But that deeper knowing, that deeper reassurance, like I was saying, having that evidence of actions in the past. Oh, it was going back to what I was talking about, saying, uh, if you always got what you wanted, I would be a completely different person. And me thinking like I wouldn't be as good of or progressed as a person. Like going with the flow of it, it's like what don't want that to happen. It's not like I'm happy. It's not like I'm like, oh, it's a good thing that happened. But having that deeper knowing, having that deeper reassurance of hey, I've had evidence in the past of things not necessarily going my way in the present moment and not being happy about it, but it ultimately working in my favor. So now I'm going to go with the flow of it. And the same thing happened again, where I'm like, I got to a point where I was able to reflect back and be like, oh, I'm glad that that happened. Oh, I'm glad that didn't go that way. Oh, I'm glad that thing didn't pan out, because if those were the opposite, I wouldn't have gotten to this spot, which was better or like the best compared to everything else that didn't go my way. And that just has to go back to, you don't necessarily have it's not 100% knowing, but, and this goes to the faith component as well, like, all right, I'm going to have the faith. I'm going to have the faith in, if you believe in God or a higher power, but just having the faith of, I'm going to go with the flow of it. And I know that that will happen throughout the course of my entire life. Like, it's never be like, okay, like, boom, got to the finish line. It's like, no, you're constantly going through the flow of life. Number 14, I'll stop if it doesn't feel right anymore. And I'll say this and I've had this thought, because like I said about the podcast, I'm like, oh, this just feels so good. It just feels like what I'm supposed to do. And I've had the internal reflection, or the internal, conversation with myself of like, hey, what if it doesn't, what if you get to a point where like it doesn't feel like that? Where like it doesn't like energize you, where it like doesn't light you up. And obviously I don't know what it'll be like if if and when I ever get to that point. But I do believe that I will have the confidence, the belief, the stick to itiveness to be like, all right, I'm stepping away from this. Like, this doesn't feel right anymore. And it's the real reason why I'm bringing that up is because it's funny. So like, through social media and like what my mindset was always about, like with creating, was like, like gym stuff. Like, and then it got to a point where like I feel like I had found my niche, where I was like, oh, like I found this like interesting little pocket between fitness and gym and motivational, but more so like on the philosophical side of things, of like creating video, like, just to put in really clear terms, videos of me working out with like very deep thoughts or philosophical thoughts, like that, or like what it also was like me just, like spitting out lines in my car after a workout of just like a motivational video. And it was like, wow, like this stuff's getting a lot of traction. Like, this is like, I'm building a following with this. Like, it's getting a lot of engagement, from likes, views, followers, all that stuff. And it, what was also cool about it is because it didn't feel like creating, or it didn't like, it just felt so natural. Like, it just felt like good. And it was like, hey, like, I'm just like, this just feels like I'm just doing this. Doesn't feel like, oh, like, here's my content plan, here's my content strategy. It's like, no, like, this is all just feels very natural to me. But I got to the point where I was like, feels like I'm forcing this. This feels fake now. Feels like I don't have that same type of energy behind putting the videos out, the way that I'm speaking. It feels forced. And I think a large part of why that was is because before I had started the podcast, I was like, feels like I'm supposed to be doing that instead. Feels like I'm supposed to be going into that lane. And I had people messaging me. I had a few people, like one of them was like, hey, like, bring those car videos back. Like I love those. It's crazy. Like that's what it's crazy to think. Like people knew me as like, hey, that's the dude who talks in his car with the same freaking baseball gym sweatshirt that he wears every single workout. That's what I did. And I remember telling you, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, doesn't feel right anymore. And like somebody else was like, hey, like bring back, bring back the, those gym videos that you do. Like I love like those gym videos with, the really cool messages, and it was like really inspirational and like, but also just like really real. And I was like, no, like it doesn't feel real anymore. And so I believe that if that ever happens with this podcast, I will be able to have the confidence in myself to be like, no, I'm not doing it anymore. Like it doesn't feel right. And I think, and I'll know, like I will know. And like that, because it'll be a shift in energy where I'm like, there's a different energy behind this. The conversations aren't flowing as well. You know, this isn't, it just wouldn't feel right. And that goes back to the feeling versus thinking. It wouldn't be like, I'm thinking like, oh, like, does this feel like, is this good? Is this not good? It's like, no, it'd be like me tapping into the feeling of it. And I'm like, no, there's a dirty feeling, or it's just like it's a tainted feeling now. It's not a pure energy anymore. And so I would say allow yourself that as well, whether it's a job, a career, a path that you're going down. Allow yourself to be like, hey, I'm stepping off this path. Number 15. I have no idea what I want to come from this, but I know what I like to give to it. And that's largely me speaking about the podcast. That's a line that I wrote in the caption for an Instagram post that got a lot of love, which was cool, about the deeper reasoning behind me starting the podcast. And that's the truth. It goes back to what I was saying earlier of, you know, thinking what you want to get from your work is actually holding you back. It's a similar type of vibe where like truly I'm like, I don't know what the future of this podcast looks like. I don't know what the future growth looks like. I don't know what like success looks like. I know I like having conversations with people. I know I like talking with people that are really interesting work, really interesting stories that make me a smarter person because it forces me to a degree to spend my time more productively and more educationally with reading books, listening to podcasts, consuming better content versus me wasting my time if I didn't have that on my plate and it's just like I'm consuming garbage content. And I mean, I guess that's what I like to get from it actually though. It's a give and a take. That's interesting. I'm realizing that in real time. What I do like, that's one of the main things that I do like to get from it, is like it's making me like, this is educational to a degree. Like I don't like I wouldn't I've read more for this podcast than I have in my entire life for anything else, like times 1,000. Like I used to never read growing up. Used to hate reading. But like I like that I've turned this into an education. This podcast is an education for me, and it's turned me into a student, especially when it comes from a reading perspective. But on the flip side to that, like if somebody were to ask me, like, hey, like what do you want this to turn into? Or, what do you want to get from this? I think the only thing that I would say is just like, hey, being able to have access to more people that I want to speak to, and just like the ease of being able to get connected with people, and just having the outreach be easier, time, like over time. And it has. Like it has. Like at the start compared to what it is now, night and day. Absolutely night and day. Especially when I first started a podcast, when I didn't have anything, the line that I used was, "Hey, I recently started a podcast." When in reality, it was like, I got nothing here. I got absolutely nothing. But it's such a cool feeling. It's such a powerful feeling to reach out to people and say like, "Hey, I've had XYZ on the show, really great conversations, and because of that, I think we could have a great conversation as well." And that's such a powerful feeling. It's such a cool and exciting feeling. Number 16, relax your mouth. This is one that was added to the list today. And so, on a literal and physical level of what relax your mouth means and where that is coming from, I had a conversation with Alex Hutchinson. He's the author of, what's the name of his book now? Let me look behind me. I can't see it. I think the name of his book is Endure or Endurance. He's an endurance writer. He used to be a runner, got very close to making the Olympics. And it's like one line in his book, and it's like not even like a major subject matter within his book. It's literally one line in his book about, but it stood out to me, about if you want to be a better runner, especially, I think he was talking about sprinters, but just in general, if you want to be a better runner, relax your mouth. Like, don't clench your mouth. Because when you clench your mouth, your entire body, just tightens up. But when you relax your mouth, your body is able to move more freely, and you're just able to get into a better rhythm. And it's also when you clench your mouth, your mind is getting into it. Like your mind is getting into this belief system of like, hey, this is getting really tough. This is getting really hard. So, and I'm like, whoa, that's really fascinating. And I'm not a runner, but I love to work out. I love to lift weights. And I think just like instinctually, there was one workout where it just like naturally happened, or like the thought of that clicked into my head of, oh, Alex Hutchinson, relax your mouth. And I tried it. I forget exactly. I think I tried it on a hack squat. Like it was the first time where I was like, all right, it was my top set. It was my heaviest set. Relax your mouth. Because it's the exact opposite. Like when you're training, when you're lifting weights, you're like, all right, like, let's go. Like, big set here. But I relaxed my mouth. My mind muscle connection was incredible. And it's the strongest I had been, like, compared to the previous weeks. And I was like, whoa, relax your mouth. And I've continued to do it with a lot of exercises, especially like heavy sets, where it's like, all right, relax your mouth. Because, like what I was saying, when you clench your mouth, when you get like really tight, it's your mind that's doing that. It's because your mind is like, all right, this is going to be really tough. We got to lock in here. But when you relax your mouth, it is the trigger to literally your mind and your entire system of like, hey, we're good here. Like, stay relaxed, stay calm. And week after week, especially when it comes to doing a heavy hack squat, relaxing my mouth, I've just gotten increasingly stronger and stronger when I think that I wouldn't have. And so obviously, like, there's the physical sense of like, hey, relax your mouth, like, stay cool, stay easy. But I'm like, there's a massive philosophical component to this as well. Like, hey, like throughout life, relax your mouth. Like, stay easy, stay cool. Because it's not necessarily when something goes wrong or we're about to do something tough, it's not necessarily that that thing is as tough as it is that it's tough, and then we're adding our mind, our belief system, our perception of it onto that, and then it's making that much harder. But when we create the physical signal of like, hey, relax your mouth, you're sending the signal to your mind of like, we're good here. And so I think when you're in stressful situations, it's like, relax your mouth. When your mind goes racing, that's as good as like, speaking to a degree. Maybe you're not saying it out loud, but like, you just have all these racing thoughts in your head. Relax your mouth. And I think it's a cool line to say. And it's like a cool mantra that you could live by. Just like, relax your mouth. And if you lift weights, I'm telling you, try it out. Keep your mouth relaxed. I'm telling you, you will see major benefit. It's not like it's literally just like, you kind of just like let your mouth hang. And I'm telling you, it's crazy. You got to try it. Number 17, Soulture. This is an interesting one because Soulture is a term that came up with earlier this year, and I still keep going back and forth because I'm like, do I want to change the name of this podcast? I'm continuing to go with Outworker, but the reason why I want to change it is because I was like, does the name Outworker align with the type of conversations that I'm having here? Like, Outworker is a great philosophy. I think it's got great like recognition. I love the logo that I've created for it, the symbol for it. I'm like, does it align with it? And I think to a degree it does, but like the word outwork, people like have a very concrete, one-dimensional understanding of what it means. Obviously, I honestly think to a degree with a podcast, like the name truly doesn't matter. Like, unless you're doing something like totally like out of left field where I was like, Tim Doyle cooking show, like obviously that wouldn't make sense. But like if you're just doing like branded words, like kind of generic words like that, like I don't think it matters too much. But the reason why I came up with Soulture is because I landed on the word that I feel like goes to feeling, goes to the depth of the conversations that I'm having, is the word soul. Like there's a lot of soul behind these conversations that I'm having and the types of people that I'm getting on the show. But I was also like, okay, soul is a very commonly used word. It's very generic. It wouldn't feel unique or authentic to me, or it wouldn't feel like mine or my identity with this. So I was like, all right, like I like soul, but it's got to be worked on a little. And I was like, okay, maybe I can like combine it with something. And I thought of like, oh, like solstice. It's like, oh, I could do like soul, and then like, but I was like, I like that. And then I was like, ooh, Soulture. And where Soulture comes from is obviously soul, and then culture. Soul plus culture equals Soulture. And I really like it because it still just sounds like culture, but obviously with soul. Like I think it looks really good. I think it aligns well, and it also sounds like it. And it's got unique. I'm like, oh, like this doesn't exist. And the reason why I also thought of it is because there's a lot of different cultures within society, pop culture, political culture, sports culture. And I'm like, we need culture for the soul, like soul culture. Especially because I think within today's day and age, those other types of cultures that I just talked about become increasingly tainted and dirty and not having a strong, pure culture behind it. And I'm like, okay, like there is a demand or there's a need for depth, especially when it comes to real conversations, just real, authentic, raw stuff that can really help people. And I'm like, that is soul culture. That is Soulture. And I keep going back and forth. I'm like, do I want to make that switch? But we'll see. But like, I think that's a really cool thing. I find it like cool that I came up with a phrase or an identifier. Maybe I won't necessarily change the name of the show to that, but I guess like in a way I could say like I created a category where I'm like, okay, Outworker lives within Soulture. Like that's the category that this lives within. Like this is soul plus culture. Number 18, the passion product result paradigm. This could honestly be a this could be an episode in itself on this entire thing, but just to broad like overview of what this means is like when you start something, some type of project, some type of creative endeavor, whatever it is, passion is what you're starting with. Like you have nothing else. Like the reason why you're starting it is because you have a passion for it. The reason why you will continue to do it in those, first weeks, first months is because of the passion for it. Like especially when going to the just trying to get less bad, like the reason why you will enter into that less bad agreement is because like, all right, like I've got a real passion for this. And that is like and the product will continue to improve, but like the product at the start like won't be at its best, but you're like, all right, like I don't care about that because like I got a passion for it. As that passion continues, you will get into the product stage of things where you're like, ooh, all right, my passion has been able to build a good enough foundation. It's gotten me off the ground to the point where, all right, I have my passion and I'm starting to develop a good product here. I've got a good product of work that I'm proud of. That the people who are seeing it are like, hey, this is really good. And then the third phase of that is the result. And it's a paradigm because the product that you have doesn't match the result that you're getting yet. And I've had a lot of people tell me like um like on my YouTube channel be like, how aren't you getting more views? Why aren't more people seeing this? Other people telling me when they see the guests that I'm having on the show saying like, your show must be blowing up. Like downloads must be insane if you're getting these types of people. And that's where that last phase was like, hey, like the product's really good. And the product continues to improve in terms of products already at a high level. And now it's going to continue to improve on a high level. And it's going to continue to get like really good people on the show. But the external view of it hasn't caught up with the product yet. And that is the passion product result paradigm. I think that's pretty interesting. Like I think that's pretty cool. And you just got to focus on those first two factors, though. Like passion and product is what you need to focus on. That's what you have control over. And it's like, hey, that third lever will catch up. But I'm just focused on those two things. Because if I stop focusing on, or if I try to manipulate things to a degree to try to either rush that result or just focus on that, you're soiling the natural passion and the natural product behind it. Because when people say like, hey, this stuff's really good, like why isn't it getting more views? It like to like a massive degree, it's because like, well, like one, like I don't know how you package stuff like from a results perspective when it comes to podcasting and stuff. And it's like, I'm just solely focused on, like I said, I like having conversations. I don't know what I'm trying to get from this. I'm just trying to give it. And so it's like, when people say like, hey, like this is really good, why aren't you getting more views? It's like, well, the reason why you think it's really good is because I'm just focused on like that pure energy. And I think it's that pure energy that you're picking up on that you really like. Number 19, look to yourself for inspiration and insight. And it's a cool thing. Like there's still like certain people that I look to, not as much anymore, but like feel like they, especially when it came to podcasting, like got me off the ground with this, or like showed me like, hey, like I can do this too. But I feel like I've really gotten to a point within my life where it's not so much of, hey, what's that person doing? And like, okay, I got to do it that way because, um, but it's like, I feel like I've really come into my own where I look to myself now where it's like, oh, like I've got a pretty, I think, unique lane, vantage point, and especially in finding your voice that feels like I'm just tapping into myself now. It's like I'm just fully focused on myself. Or I'm tapping into myself of like what feels good to me and then following that. Because you can't just become a copy print of somebody else. It's like you need to tap into yourself. Number 20, working out is just part of the day. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where it was like I had that different mindset when it came to working out. And I would say when that mindset shifted of not being in growth mode, but just like, all right, this is work that I like to do. I feel like I still was at that point when that happened. It still felt like, oh well, working out is my favorite part of the day. And it's like the part of the day. Whereas now, like I still love it, I still like it, but it's just part of the day. I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna go work out today, and then I got this stuff to do, and I got to work on that. Like it's just become part of the day, and that's a really cool thing. And I see that as a massive, like evolution and like progress point for me, because it was the exact opposite where everything revolved around that 2 hours. And yes, like I'm still the type of person where like I would still feel off. Like if I had a scheduled workout for a day and I had to miss it, like it wouldn't feel good to me. But like, this sucks. But like I said, it's just part of the day now, which is really cool. Number 21, you're not a machine, you're a vessel. This is building off the gym stuff as well. Like I just solely saw myself as like, I'm trying to build a machine. Like I am a machine, like mechanistic view of life. And this whole vessel outlook gets more so into the faith soul type of thing, where it's like, all right, my body is just a vessel for who I am on a deeper level. Like I am not this body. This body is just the vessel. It is just the surface of what lives within me. And what lives within me, that is actually what I am. Number 22, invest in questions, not answers. From a podcasting perspective, that's all this is. I'm like, I don't need to have answers. I don't need to act like I'm smart. I don't need to act like I know. Uh, be a student, be curious, be the one who brings questions. And it'll be interesting to see. But I think in the future, like there is one question in particular that is going to play a big role within the work that I do. Like one question in particular that I'm going to ask a lot that will be a guiding force behind like I said, the work that I do. And it'll be interesting to see what that question continues to lead to. I'm being vague and very generic and awkward with talking about that, but that's on purpose because I want to be able to look back on this and be like, yeah, this is what I was talking about here. 23. The hole you think you're being buried into is actually the mountain appearing in front of you. This goes back to that flow of life type thing, things not going your way, but just having that reassurance and having that evidence from like, all right, this will turn out right. But this also goes to that perception types of things where you think that you can be getting buried deep within a hole, and then you finally get out of it and you have this sense of confidence and belief in yourself, and you're like, damn, like look at what I was able to go through. And it's in that moment that maybe it took me a while to have this thought, like, or have this language behind it, but it's in that moment that you see that, okay, it was never a hole, it was a mountain that I was climbing. And when you're climbing a mountain, there are a lot of dirty looking parts, a lot of unspecial looking parts of climbing a mountain. And then when you finally get to the top, you're like, oh wow, look at that. And that's what's happening. Like you think you're getting buried, but it's actually you're just making a climb and you don't realize it until it finally alchemizes into seeing new heights and being on the summit rather than you thinking you're getting out of a hole and you're back on just like level ground of where you used to be. And it's like, no, you're not where you used to be. You were climbing a mountain this entire time. 24. People feel how you feel about it. This is going to the podcast where, I've had guests tell me, like, I can tell, like, this means a lot to you. Like, I can feel like this is something that, like, you really care about. And so people have a good sense of what feels real and true to you and what feels fake and like you're just trying to put on an act. So if you're doing something because you think like, hey, this will look good or this will help me in some type of way, like people can see through that pretty quickly. So you better be doing things where it feels pure because people want to feel that pure energy in return. They want to be around people who are doing things that they have a raw, natural energy for because they want a piece of that for themselves as well. 25. Stories help people more than you think. The greatest story I've ever told up until this point, and nothing comes close to it. And I'm saying up until this point because I think I'm like always being present, future minded. I'm like, well, my best stories are still ahead of me. So that's why I'm saying that. But with that being said, just thinking present and the past, the best story I've ever told, and it doesn't even come close, is the story of me sharing how I healed from my chronic back pain, herniated discs in my lumbar spine, and 8-episode miniseries going so in depth on the entire journey, on the entire story of not just about like, okay, like ABCD of this is how I did it, but truly telling a story. And that has helped more people than I would have ever thought. The people that it has helped that I do know of, the depth of that help, crazier than I would have ever thought. And I'll share 2 instances that are insane to me. One of them is a woman, months back had sent me a voice note on Instagram DMs saying that she was listening to my podcast miniseries, listening to my story, literally listening to my voice of me sharing my entire experience. And she literally felt a physical release of pain. Like she felt her body finally relax. And I'm like, a story did that. Like, yes, obviously, like me sharing how I got better, but like a story had a physiological reaction within her. And I had the epiphany of stories are medicine. Stories are not simply content, media, things to consume. Stories are medicine. If somebody can feel like, oh my gosh, I literally can feel myself getting out of pain listening to this story, it's like, okay, I'm like, okay, there is a medical component to storytelling. The second, and this might even be crazier, even though that's pretty crazy. They're both crazy. But the second one, this woman reached out to me saying she got diagnosed with disc problems, a lot of pain in her neck, going down into her arm, numbness, tingling, cortisone shots not helping. And what does she do? She goes on ChatGPT, and I don't know exactly what she wrote, but something to the degree of like, this is what I'm dealing with. Are there any podcasts or stories that could help me? And ChatGPT told her, listen to this series, Back on Top. It's one thing to Google search or find it on your own or have somebody tell you about it, but to put it into ChatGPT, and it's sad to a degree because people feel like they need to go to an AI tool to get the help and the care that they need. But it's so powerful because she had told me, she was like, I feel like I found what I was supposed to find. And that goes back to storytelling. That goes back to story. What I always say, there's a story within us that the world can benefit from hearing. And, I created that entire series because, like, hey, like, I was trying to find something like this when I was in a lot of pain and I couldn't find anything. So I got to put it out there. But I would have never thought that it could have this type of impact with me receiving this type of feedback from it. And what I've learned and what I think a big part of my future will be, it's like, all right, like, like, invest in storytelling. You're a good storyteller. Continue to do that. Number 26, stand up. I'm not going to go into some type of philosophical tangent here, literally why this is on the list. I bought a standing desk earlier this year, didn't use it for a long time, just use it as a regular desk. A few months back, started using it as a standing desk, and now I only work standing up. And I feel like it just getting into a rhythm of thinking and working, I feel like it's so much better standing up. And there was like a time a few weeks back where like my legs had gotten kind of tired from like literally standing all day, working at my standing desk. I was like, like, let me sit down and work for a little. And it felt terrible. It felt so bad. It felt like I was sluggish, honestly. I was like, all right, like, I got to stand up again. And so I think that truly does help. I'm sure there's some Huberman science behind that of like, oh yeah, like standing up does X, Y, Z to your brain. But yeah, stand up, try it out. And number 27, the last one. We romanticize what we don't have and then doubt it the moment it becomes ours. Earlier this year, there was something, an opportunity that I saw, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that would be perfect. Like that feels like perfect on so many different levels. And like if I'm able to get access to this opportunity, that would help me with this, and it would like be really good with that. And then I got into the process of like, oh, like I might actually be able to have access to this. I might be able to get this opportunity. And my mind very quickly went to like, do I actually want this? Would this actually be good? Is this perfect? And like as it continued to progress and how it became more likely that like, oh, like this might be mine, I was like, wait, like, is this good? And then I quickly came to, and I had the thought where I was like, dude, if this opportunity never came your way, if you were still like on square one, you would be still in that mindset of, oh my gosh, like I would love this so much. Like this would be perfect for me. And it was really cool because it felt like the first, like, because I feel like I've done, and we all do that, but I feel like it was the first time in my life where I was able to romanticize the having of it instead of pitying it and be like, no, like this is perfect. This is really good. This is what you want. And it was a special moment. And that's continued to play out where I'm like, yeah, dude, like your natural instincts, your natural intuition of thinking that this was perfect was right. And so it's so easy to pity what we do have and romanticize what we don't. Because when we do get what we didn't have, we'll start to pity it anymore. So I'm sure there's so many things within your life right now that you pity, and it could be a great gratitude exercise that you can do. What are the things within your life that you look down upon or that you pity that you used to romanticize and be like, I want that, and just reflect on that? And that's 27. 27 lessons, 27 years. Man, that was great. That was a great little flow reflection session. Looking forward to continuing to build Outworker, continue to ask questions. Like I said, invest in questions, talk with interesting people. And I'll leave you with one thing. Maybe Is that a thing? Like, do you put an extra birthday candle on a birthday cake? Is that like a thing? I can't even remember. Can't remember the last time I had a birthday cake, actually. I guess I'll throw that out there. I'm not a birthday cake guy anymore. I'll leave you with one extra lesson. Keep out working.